now present For the Record with Neil Heinen.
Pushing back against hate is next on For the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Neil Heinen. It often feels as if the decision by one human being to hate another permeates daily life on this planet. Hate shows up in so many different forms and so many different ways, some subtle, some shockingly blatant, that the only response that makes any sense is to reject hatred in all forms. And that, of course, is the vision of We Are Many, United Against Hate, the inclusive organization founded by Masood Akhtar. With the recent terrorist massacre in New Zealand still seared into our minds, with a plea expected in the Charlottesville, Virginia federal hate crimes case, and with racial divisions very much present right here in Madison, we thought we'd spend some time talking about what we can do, what is being done to combat hatred. I welcome back to For the Record, We Are Many, United Against Hate founder Masood Akhtar, and I'm pleased to have join us Dane County District Attorney Ismael Ozanne.
Thank you for having us.
Very much, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having us.
So let's start with New Zealand, Masood, just because I think people are so familiar with that right now, and I'm thinking in particular of the image of the Prime Minister of New Zealand, expressing just what seemed to be the most honest, heartfelt emotion to some of the survivors and families in that case. It seemed like such a stark contrast to our usual view of these things.
So, unfortunately, when that incident happened, I was in Michigan, touring the university for my niece's education. And I found out about the situation. I was getting emails, supports, questions, concerns, but that was a Friday day, so people go to mosque to do Friday prayers, so they're concerned about the safety issues. So I started looking at it, and everybody was saddened with what they saw over there, that kind of situation. At the same time, in a few minutes after this incident happened, Prime Minister came on and had a discussion about her reaction and how she actually looked at that situation. In a few minutes after that, she came out and she said, the shooter is a terrorist. He is a criminal. This country is a home for immigrants and refugees and all of those. And we are with you. We are not even going to take or use the name of the shooter. And then right after that, she visited mosques, putting headscarf, respecting. And it was a powerful speech that she ended with, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. The environment in that kind of thing was so powerful, the kind of reaction, the kind of support that we got. The other response that I saw with some of those videos that I watched when they were interviewing those victims who lost their loved ones. There was, some of those said that we forgive the shooter. That was very emotional to me. Look at the power that those people who believe in their religion going to mosque, coming out and saying that we forgive this kind of people. So that's one response in one country that was so powerful.
There were two elements to that I thought that were really important, and one was how we do respond to those wherever they occur, in whatever form they occur. And there was a lesson there, but then there was also this element of words and the words that we use and the language that we use, and I think District Attorney Ozanne, that you are so aware of that from a legal perspective, that when is the time to say this is a terrorist act? When is the time to say it looks like white supremacy is involved here? When is it that we say this is a hate crime? There is a risk in using those words inappropriately. There's a very big risk in not using them when they should be used. How does that enter into your thinking?
Well, I guess when you're looking at sort of a decision that a prosecutor would have versus a leading political figure, there are certain things that we all know. If there's a violent act, we can talk about that act being a terrorist attack. And I think that is a real shift, especially in this country. We don't talk about these mass shootings or these large-scale violent attacks on our citizens as domestic terrorism. And I think that has a couple of issues. One, it doesn't truly raise the level of what just occurred to the level that it needs to be. And when you don't actually call something what it is, you sort of stop the ability for the full system to respond in accordance. And everyone understands sort of first responders getting to a violent incident and quelling the violence to make sure all citizens are safe. But what we don't see, and what I think is now just sort of coming into clarity, is the impact that these violent acts have on citizens. Those who actually experienced it firsthand, but also the rest of, say, our children in our schools, when they now, instead of just having fire alarms and tornado drills, have shelter-in-place drills. The impact that these incidents have just on the mental health of our children who have to go into school and trust that we're going to keep them safe.
You know, Ismael, it just strikes me that even if we look at the civil rights movement and the violence against African Americans, we still don't refer to that as terrorism. Yep. And yet, that was very much part of the motivation there.
It was clearly, the simple definition of terrorism is violence or intimidation inflicted on civilians to further a political goal. And when you look at the lynchings that have occurred in this country's history, it was clearly to put people of color out of the political system, out of an ability to exercise their most essential right as citizens, which is to vote. And it's an interesting discussion that we have now in and around the Second Amendment, around gun ownership. I'm all for responsible people owning guns, and frankly, in America, it's not about need, it's about want. So if you really want a weapon that was designed not to, say, hunt deer, you have an ability to purchase that under some restrictions, depending on what weapon it is you want. But that is the country that we live in, and I think what we all need, and what most gun owners do want, is sensible regulation so that we all remain safe and people have the ability to go on through their lives and, frankly, purchase a thing that they may feel they want to have. Not that they need, but that they want.
There are actions of terror, there are words of terror, there are implements of terror. Absolutely. And they all, I mean, we have to talk about them in those terms. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what we or many are up to.
Yep, definitely.
For the record, right after this.
For the Record, sponsored by MG&E, your community energy company.
This is an exciting time in the energy industry.
The world is changing, and we want to work toward common goals.
Toward a cleaner energy future, driven by innovation, powered by working together.
By working with customers, we provide customers what they want.
MG&E is your community energy company for the future, powering our community, sharing your values, partnering to meet your needs. Visit energy2030together.com to create a more sustainable future together.
Hey girl, where to?
A meeting with my biggest customer.
Like that?
Like what?
Your hair's on point, makeup not so much.
Are you for real?
That lip color totally washes you out.
I'm not wearing any.
Exactly.
Seriously? While driving?
You should drive more carefully.
Focus on driving, not the distractor.
Looks like it's Botox time.
I remember walking down State Street and falling in love with Madison. It's a great place to live. But we're in a crucial moment. We need leaders with the courage to pursue bold, progressive ideas. At UW, I help mayors all around the country do exactly that. We need affordable housing so people don't leave, bus rapid transit so people can get to work. And it's time to prepare for climate change.
I'm Satya Rhodes Conway, and now I'm running for mayor because the change we need can't wait. Rule the road in your new 2019 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab 4x4 from Don Miller. It's Ram Truck Month. That means great deals at Don Miller, your Madison truck headquarters. The 2019 Ram 1500 boasts best-in-class towing, hill start assist, trailer sway damping. Add up all the discounts and you can get over $11,000 off MSRP. It's $32,987. The spring sales event on now at Don Miller, your Madison truck headquarters.
Pushing back against hate is our conversation on For the Record, and my guest, Masood Akhtar, who is the founder of We Are Many, United Against Hate, and Ismael Ozanne, who is the district attorney of Dane County, and who is supportive of a lot of the efforts of We Are Many and involved in a lot of the conversations in this community about hatred. So remind people about the work of We Are Many, Masood, and particularly now. It's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, 2 years now.
With some very successful community conversations into the high schools. But talk about the work right now.
So, again, our overall mission is to build an inclusive community, you know, regardless of your color, ethnicity, or even political association. We are heavily focused in two areas, as I mentioned. One is education, and then one is nonpartisan policies. We are having great success going into high schools, empowering students. And as I said before, that our movement is not about just organizing events. We want to make changes to deal with this hate and bigotry and racism. So when we organize events, for example, at Mount Harvey School, you know, just a few weeks ago, I had a dinner with those two high school students, Levi and Sam.
Yep.
And so we empower them, and their goal right now is putting together a plan to reach out to all of these high schools across the state, particularly those schools that are located in rural areas. So we are continuously doing that all across. But we are also targeting now on college campuses. And so we have a significant support from the UW system and UW chancellor here as well, and we're working in partnership with them. And as a result of that, number of conversations I took with the leadership of all UW campuses, some of those even I visited. The first UW campus that is going to organize an event with myself and also Arno and Pardeep is going to be on April 8th, where we are going to go and talk to their faculty and teachers, and at the same time in the evening, we have invited all of those communities as well. And then we just expand that to that. So that's one area that we'll continue doing it. The new area that we added based on our experience, and that's one of the beauty of We Are Many United Against Hate. We are not very focused in one area. As things evolve and change, we do change our plan to address those concerns.
Yep.
One of the things that I started realizing is that, you know, whenever there is an incident, like mass shooting happens, we organize vigil, and we get together, different communities, to show our support. This is an excellent thing, and I think we should continue doing that. But sometimes I have this feeling that we need to be a little bit more organized and action-oriented. For example, if you have 1,000 people in that vigil, ask how many are from our elected officials of both parties. These are the people you're talking, they're already supportive, or they have been the victim of shooting anyway. So whether it is a Sikh temple shooting or mosque, or you have Jewish community or African American community, what I'm looking for is we are going to approach some of these vigils that happen to say, let's make them more action-oriented. Let's do concerted effort for all of us involved to reach out to our elected officials of both parties and invite them to attend this vigil so that they can hear what all of these people who are victims of these kind of shootings have to say about that, and then demand certain things in those vigils, such as, hey, we're asking you to pass anti-hate resolution, anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim, and those kinds of things. I think that, to me, is going to be a lot more powerful and is going to result into something that we are all about.
Yeah, it's interesting. District Attorney Ozanne, you have weighed a number of times recently when to publicly talk about some really tough cases that have been involved, and recognizing the tension within the community and the desire to speak out, to have voices heard. But there is value in having these community conversations and in leading these community conversations.
Yes, there is. I think government's first and most important job is community safety. And so when something like this happens, it's important that your leaders step up and call it what it is, but also denounce it. If nothing else, to ensure that there isn't a false narrative running as an undercurrent that, say, we in government potentially support those who actually are committing the violence. Right. And I think that's very important, and that needs to be stated clearly, that government is here for all people within our jurisdictions, within our borders, and that everyone is protected by our laws, and that has to occur.
Just by its nature, I think a lot of the communities that we're talking about here feel marginalized. Yep. And they're not aware of their rights. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me that your former colleague, John Voudray, who was the former U.S. attorney, who was very involved in United Against Hate, took his involvement to tell people, these are your rights. You have the right to be safe here. And the fact that you're here together, I think, reinforces that that's part of this effort.
Yeah, it's been great. We've been able to partner on a number of the events at the high schools. And really what I see is that when we are going to have an impact, it's when we actually apply the Wisconsin ideal, right? When we actually take research and education and give it to people so that they can actually have a better life. So our young people, right? They see each other as young people. They see each other struggling with the same things. They are the same. And we haven't sort of gotten this wedge in between them that says someone's different and therefore you should be afraid of them. And that's what really has to occur, for us to see each other as humans and realize that, you know what, that violence is going to impact you as well as me. And when I say that government has to call something what it is, the other thing that we don't see is the resources that are applied after the incident. Let's just say mental health. Resources for mental health, for counseling. If we actually call these what they are, domestic terrorism, acts of violence, government will then start to actually act differently. It's not something that is an incident that happened over there and it's not going to happen again. It's something that we need to bring all of our resources to and actually help those who were impacted get through that difficulty. Because you know what, they may not realize it for a year, 4 months, for 2 years later. They may not be in a place where they can actually speak about what occurred. We are starting to see more of that in trauma-informed care with sexual assaults, with other violent offenses. But I think these mass violent acts actually need a better response from government, from all of us, to, one, ensure that they don't happen again, but also to actually try and repair the harm that is already occurred.
Well, as we continue our conversation, I want to talk about what next steps might be for We Are Many, and tell people how they can get involved. And we'll do that when we come back right after this.
It seems like with life, there's never a dull moment. And when it comes to sleep, we don't always get the best rest. Find the cozy comfort, quality, and affordability of the Aspen Collection, all packed in a convenient box, exclusively at Denver Mattress.
5,000 years of Chinese music and dance in one night. Incredible, groundbreaking, a cultural phenomenon. A must-see, Shenyun. Coming to Overture Center for the Arts, May 7th and 8th. Tickets at shenyun.com/Madison or call 800-800-4410.
The skills you develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you a head start on your career. Gain practical experience with technology and equipment that will give you a leg up in the civilian world. Learn critical leadership skills and to be part of a team. Serve your community and your country part-time while earning money for an education. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about the paid training and career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
It's supposed to represent ethics, equal justice, and the rule of law. But behind this robe is a Wisconsin judge with an extremist agenda. Brian Hagedorn personally pocketed thousands from an anti-gay hate group, took a free junket to Mexico, and Hagedorn tried to strip hospital visitation rights from gay partners while running a school that bans students, teachers, and parents for being gay. Money from hate group, discriminatory views. Brian Hagedorn's unfit for the Supreme Court.
It seems like with life, there's never a dull moment. And when it comes to sleep, we don't always get the best rest. Find the cozy comfort, quality, and affordability of the Aspen Collection. All packed in a convenient box, exclusively at Denver Mattress.
I'm back with We Are Many United Against Hate founder Masood Akhtar and Dane County District Attorney Ismael Ozanne. And you know, one benefit of this work is increased recognition, public recognition. And without embarrassing you, you've gotten a couple of nice recognitions recently that I think are important, because it shows that that there are people out there who recognize the value of this work. The governor, for one, recognized your work, and it's important for the work itself.
Well, it is, but at the same time, it sends a message that bringing people together, talking together, a diverse group, and building an inclusive community is so important. And that's where we believe strongly that the kind of model that we are developing, and now it has been recognized at the national level, we have something very positive as a movement that's going on. The important thing is that engaging different institutions, whether our politicians or agencies, and the community to speak up and talk about those things. So recently, We Are Many United Against Hate have established partnership with the Department of Public Instructions, and we are going deep into understanding the root causes of hate. Is there any other model in other states that's out there that we can use, and then implement some of those recommendations into curriculum all across? Once that one is done, we're going to do similar things on UW campuses and colleges. So there are many ways we can be involved. I think the key issue is that we need to speak up and talk about some of those issues. As being a Muslim and the Muslim community here is that, you know, as we talked about before, is that we just want to make sure that if a similar crime is committed by the Muslim, you know, they talk about terrorists, they talk about even associate it to our religion, that creates a lot of problem or safety issues for over 3 million people. There are law-abiding, proud American Muslims living in this country. And I think that needs to change. Call those terrorists who they are, but at the same time, develop some programs for everybody to build an inclusive community.
More talk about it before something happens rather than in response to something happens or after something happens. Which also then I think would suggest that, you know, what can we do if we know someone, if we suspect. Right now, people talking about making racist statements, it's become almost the norm. And maybe we need to call it out more to prevent some of this. And I'm sure the law enforcement community and the justice community is having these conversations.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We here in the United States have freedom of speech. So you have the right to say something that is offensive to somebody else. Where you cross the line is where you incite violence, where you sort of push somebody to do something that is going to hurt somebody, or that you infringe on someone else's right. You don't have the ability to say fire in a movie theater, right? You no longer have the ability to say in the airport that you have a bomb in your bag or something to that effect. So we need to be clear, especially from our elected officials, as to what's appropriate. Yes, I'm here sworn to protect your right to say whatever you feel, maybe as offensive as you want. That said, you don't have a right to infringe on someone else's rights or someone else's safety.
We just have like 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
You mentioned the April 8th event. Anything else coming up?
Yeah, and I think at Mount Harvey School, we have a follow-up on April 22nd. That's open to just their community, but if few people want to go, I can make that kind of arrangement. Going back to what you were saying about the community, what they can do, one of the things I would say is based on what I saw in New Zealand, I think we should all be nominating the Prime Minister of New Zealand for Nobel Prize for Peace because of what she was able to do. I mean, it's just unbelievable example of what you expect from the leaders.
And this, I mean, this is something citizens can always do, is to contact their elected officials.
Yes.
And tell them, this is what I want. This is how I want you to respond to this.
Exactly. And always do it in a bipartisan way. You know, hate is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a human issue. Lives are being lost for no reason. So I think it's important to pick up the phone and talk to your elected officials of both parties. Encourage them to do that. And we're in the process of negotiation and talking with some of those people ourselves. But what matters is when they hear from a person who is a Jew or Christian or Muslim and others, that has an impact. So one of the message here is that, you know, these minorities should not work in silos. We have to get out our silos and work together as a community and make phone calls so they know that all of these communities are united to build an inclusive community.
Masood, thank you. District Attorney Ozanne,
One thing I would like to say to you, Neil, and I don't know if it'll make it, is the role of the press and how you portray. You know, we've talked years ago about just because someone is a person of color, why would you mention their race when you're talking about their crime? And that is the same thing here when we are talking about a terrorist act or an act of violence. Why are we connecting a religion potentially to that as well?
Thank you. We got to wrap it up. We'll be back in a second.
We're now the #1 volume Mitsubishi dealer in the nation. It's time for something big. This month, get a minimum of $4,060 for any trade at Accident Mitsubishi. We need something bigger. It needs to have max warranty, our 30-year, 300,000-mile warranty on new and used vehicles. And don't forget about credit amnesty. If you bring home $350 a week, you could get $30 grand in credit. Hey, everybody, it's Matt.
He's born to represent max savings, max warranty, and max credit amount. At Max City Mitsubishi.
For 2 decades, News 3 Now and Channel 3000 have paid tribute to top-notch teachers nominated by our viewers. Every month, we spotlight and salute an area teacher, and we want to hear about your favorite. If you know a teacher who deserves to be recognized as a top-notch teacher, send us a letter, an email, or nominate a teacher at channel3000.com.
Top-Notch Teachers, sponsored by Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor.
They say a photograph is worth 1,000 words. We say it's worth a whole lot more than that. Dear National Guard, are you up to it? It's up to you.
Update your floors with Empire Today's $50 room sale. Buy one room, get floors for all other rooms for just $50 each. So when you buy one room, it's only $50 for laminate in the kitchen, $50 for carpet in the bedroom, and $50 for hardwood in the office. There's no limit. Buy one room, and it's $50 for floors in each additional room. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today. My thanks to Masood Akhtar and Ismael Ozanne, and to you for joining us. We'll see you next week on For the Record.